Good morning and welcome back to Pretty Gets Gritty, and I'm Natalie, and today we're going to be doing a bit of technique with the new snippet dies. So I'm just going to wait a short while for everybody to join in while I'm just checking the settings are working and you can see me. So don't be afraid to say hi and let me know that you're watching. And if you have any questions at any point, don't be afraid to ask. So currently streaming live on YouTube, on the Pretty Gets Gritty page, and in the Crafting with Pretty Gets Gritty group. So if any one of those fails, you can hop across to those instead. So last time in Technique Thursday we did explosion powders, and we did the kind of tabs for our technique journal. So you may not have seen these. So just in case, I'll just flick through. And these are just done using normal index tabs. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken an A5 piece of card, and this is 385 GSM, so it's going to be nice and thick. And I've just cut it in half vertically. So I'm going to have lots of different sizes of pages in my journal. So that basically it's going to be nice and fun to flick through. So onwards and upwards with the dies. So welcome to the snippets. So we have some lovely circle background that we can cut into. We have a kind of trellis effect, which is also great for cutting into. We have some hearts, and you're going to see these in a bit more detail in a bit. And we also have like a Turkish tile one as well. So you can see just part of it here. So you can see I've already snipped into it. And I have to say, I think that one is my favourite. So you'll be seeing lots of that one. It's a bit like Pretty Acoustic. When you need something, that's going to be my go-to. So hopefully everybody can see me okay. I'm not getting any hellos though, so I just want to just check. Because I'm still saying that I have 0 viewers, which isn't right really. So if anybody can let me know that they can see me okay, that'd be great. Let me just see if I can see on. I'm not getting any chat popping up at all, which is really unusual. I might go away and come back in case it's not working properly. Oh. Okay. So you all can see me, I just can't see you guys, so that's a bit weird. So if you are commenting and I'm not seeing it, I do apologise, and I will say hello to everybody watching, even though I have no clue who. And my viewer figures is all over the shop, so it's like I have no idea. It goes from 2 to 0 and back to, yeah. Very odd. Okay, so I thought I could do a few different techniques. So what you're going to need is you're going to need some sponges of some description. Now that could be a double sponge like this, it could be a makeup sponge. You're going to need some paints and some inks. So I've just pulled out a few different colours off my stash. I've also pulled out some pretty out there and wipe out, so that if I want to kind of knock any colours back, I can do, in case they're a bit too strong in places, but we can also use that to kind of texture as well. And let's get started. So first of all, I haven't gessoed the card because that kind of encourages it to curl a bit more, I think, to start with. So rather than having things drying a bit slower, I'm just going to go for it. Now, you can see I've already started kind of stenciling with this one. So I thought it'd be really fun to add a few more colours to it. So consider one half kind of your mop up or your colouring section, and then the other half is going to be like proper full on. So I'm just going to take a little bit of paint on my sponge, not too much. Pop my die cut on there and let's start colouring it. So I've already used some chalk paint on this particular piece of die cut, that is. So you're going to get a bit of a bubbly texture that's going to come through that, because when you apply it with a sponge you get like these really nice bits of bubbles and texture that is going to really look smashing. Okay, so let's peel that one off there. And I just want to get these other end section here, so I'm just going to turn it round and I'm just going to concentrate on the ends here. Now if you didn't want to have the texture, and what you could do is actually pre-paint your card before you do your die cutting with a nice brush, so you're going to get a smoother finish. But I don't mind having a bit of a texture going on. So we want to let that dry before we then try and actually apply that to our surface. And thank you for the like, Kerry. I can see that you've liked it, I just can't see any comments. So Mel, if you're watching and you happen to see any comments that I'm not seeing, if you want to ask in the DT chat, I've got that open. Okay, so let's pop the lid back on that one for now. So that's how we can stencil with paint and colour our die cuts at the same time. But I also want to do a bit of texture as well, and a bit of stenciling in that sense. So let's pop our circle one just here, and I'm going to get the palette knife, which is difficult because all mine seem to have gone on strike, but that's okay. Make do with what I have on my desk. So, oh, should have got in to open this one. Geez, that's voluntarily welded itself. Okay, change of plan. Not pretty out there. We're going to swap to white texture paste instead. Just because I know I can get that one open. So whereas the pretty out there would be nice and pearlescent, this is going to be kind of a matte finish, but we can play with it after. So I'm just going to line my die cut on there. There we go. So let's just get that kind of going off that edge. I do like to go off the edges of my work, and I think it just gives it a little bit more of a finished feel when it's all done. There we go. Now, with your die cut up in the air, I'm just going to put a little bit more of that texture paste on the back of my palette knife, and I'm literally going to stab at that die cut. So you're going to get really rough kind of texture. And obviously the thicker whatever you're using to do this is, the more kind of peaks you're going to get. So again, we want to let that dry because at the moment it's really floppy. So put that on a nice flat surface. Can also be a way of shaping your die cuts as well. So if you want to get into kind of having your pieces kind of flowing, for instance, then you could go that way. Now the other option is that you cut with a little less pressure. So if you, for instance, happen to do a die cut and you just think, do you know what, that hasn't gone all the way through, I could have done with putting a shim in it. Don't just think, oh, that's it, I'll throw that away. We can actually use that in our work too, because we still got a lovely impression in there. It just means that what we do with it, we've got to kind of adapt a little bit. So I'm going to do a little bit of texture paste just into the corner of this one, and then I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to come back so that we kind of pull out that detail of the rest of our die cut. But I just want to let that dry first. So if you've got some bits that you think are going to pop out, it's a good opportunity to just get some texture paste on there, let that dry, and then we can come back to it. Okay, I'm going to be going super duper fast. Okay, so this is one of the heart snippets, and there's actually some individual hearts on that same section too. So what I'm going to do with those is I think I'm actually going to kind of put that one just there and maybe paint into it, because obviously where we've put the texture on this one, unless we, I'll tell you what, let's try this. Let's see how that looks. Actually, I might go with that, you know. I'm allowed to change my mind. Have one plan there. The other thing to say is that when you have a background die like this and you've got lots of little pieces, so something like this trellis here where you've got loads of these little diamonds, I actually save all of those and then I can use them to build up height in my actual pieces rather than having to use things like foam tape. Hi Taz! Now, you say that, but I did see a sneaky rumour in another group that she's possibly going for a drink with Julia. So, you're saying that she's getting ready for the telly. Oh dear. But yes, the comments is interesting at the moment. I don't know what's going on because I only have one, which is weird. And I know that I should have at least one from YouTube too, which is like really bizarre. So, as I said, save these up, and then what you can do is actually stick 2 or 3 together to get your depth. Or what I tend to find is if you're doing something where you've got like lots of fiddly die cuts, where they're all at different levels, then you can actually kind of customise the support so that you keep your shapes nice and level. So for instance, like one end might be, you know, directly onto the canvas, but the other end might have something in between. So you can kind of do it that way. Okay, and we're getting there. Let's pop that on there because it's still quite warm here. I don't know what it's like by you, but it's still quite warm. And I just put my hand in that. Ew. There you go. So have a great time out, innit? You've been working hard, so you deserve it. Okay, so there's our trellis. Now what I want to do is, rather than using this as one piece, which is really tempting when you have a piece of trellis like this, is I actually want to snip into it and break it down. So hi Jane, hi Louisa. They're starting to come through now. It's a bit of an odd one. I don't know if it was having issues or what. So what I'm going to do is just start to snip, and I tend to try and stick to a point where it makes sense. So either, you know, across a join or coming up to a join, or sometimes in the other direction. So I'm kind of getting a bit of randomness to it. And then I might even go back on myself and go kind of over here. And then let's go there. And then we're going to go back in. And let's go across this way. Okay, and I think I'm going to snip that one there. So we've kind of got this little tail going off at the top. So we can pop that one down into that corner. And let's do the same over here. So I want to just have a smaller bit to go in the opposite corner. Okay, that can go that way. That can go up there. And again, I'm going to go off the edge so that I can snip that so it looks like it continues. And let's do the same over here. Okay, so that one's going to go there. Might even take that down a bit actually. So we don't necessarily have to follow the same angle, so if you want to take that straight line that we just snipped and put that up to the side, you can do. Let me just see if I can get that so you can see that a little better. There we go. So you kind of got two pieces that are in the normal trellis angling, but then we've got it so it's also going slightly off too. And if we're going to do that, and want to mirror that somewhere else, so I think rather than try and do it on that same page, let's go to the opposite page. And that could go up there maybe. So let's get those kind of stuck down. And choice of two. You can guarantee I get the wrong one. Okay. So my gel medium is in need of replacement. So we'll see how it goes. Palette knife again. So when you're doing something that is intricate like this, what I tend to end up doing, just get a palette knife and just dab it on. The other way that you can do it, and I do this for the really fine trellis one, so this one, is actually apply your gel medium to your canvas and then go from there. I think it might just be that everybody's just having a bad day. I mean, it tends to go like that, doesn't it? They all tend to have like spells where everybody's having a bit of a day. So that one's going to go level up with that straight line there. And let's just get that in there. So, hi Angela, and hi Nori. So we did have a few technical issues at the start of the stream, so it did take a little bit of time for it to kind of catch up, which is a bit weird. I think it was just doing it on purpose, just because I'd been saying about changing the software. There we go. some I'm going to put straight on that edge there too, and that kind of trail off. Okay, so because I want to try and pick out some of these details in here, I don't really want to put any gel medium underneath in terms of brushing it on, because otherwise that can kind of cause a bit of a resist to go on. So what I'm going to do is just put the gel medium on the bigger sections, because I don't want to risk it kind of squidging through. So if I just angle my palette knife accordingly. It's going to need a good wash later. We can just do that and pop that on, like so. Let's just get that bit a bit straighter. There we go. So we can actually start to pick out with our paintbrush as well some of these elements. So far so good. Now we've got our backing piece here that we did our texture paste on. Still a little bit damp, but we'll see how we go. So let's think. Again, I don't want to necessarily use all of it, so let's get me scissors. I'm going to do little snips, because some of those background pieces may be loose, so you can see that that's probably going to pop out now. Let's pop that one round that way. Now with this next bit, I want to try and get all the way into this top circle there and snip. So if it starts to pull a little bit like it's doing at the moment, just carefully guide your scissors round. It won't take much because it's only really holding on by a thin layer at the back of the cardboard paper anyway. There we go. So near there. Oh, missed one. Let's snip that one there. So there's one. And let's pop that one about there. And I'm just going to put plenty of gel medium on this one. So this could be one that you could brush your gel medium onto if you wanted to. Okay. And just be a little bit gentle with it. So I'm going to bring that in from the edge, because we've got that texture paste kind of going up that edge. I think it could just be Facebook, you know. It just seems to be, I don't know, giving lots of issues at the moment. I mean, mine said that there was unusual activity on my account. No, there wasn't. I've gone back on my activity log. It's exactly the same as it always is. It's very annoying. Okay, so let's pop these bits on here too. Now, it's a bit too large to kind of go all that way across, and I'm probably going to get monkey fingers, but let's try and just take it apart so we can rip it and just go, yeah, that can go there. And as I've ripped that bit, let's put that kind of there-ish. Now what I would say is let that dry, then you can come back in with some more gel medium if you need to after. So now what I'm going to do is leave that bit right to the end so that I can concentrate on getting some actual paint onto our surface without having to dance around die cuts. So I still have a few others that I can stencil with. No, it is there are a lot of storms around at the moment. Okay, so paintbrush. I'm going to go for a big paintbrush because it'll get things done quicker. I mean, I can't see comments at all in the group, which is weird because usually Facebook prefers to push out the group video than it does the page. It's very, very bizarre. So I'm going for Get Crackled in 9. And I've got a bit of a lime thing going on at the moment, so it tends to get used a lot. So I'm just going to do a bit of dabbing. And I'm not being overly precious about where this goes, I'm not planning it. And let's go there and a little bit here, there. I'm working onto a messy mat. It's not actually onto my gut mat, although it looks like it. Yeah, I think that's also me and hubby, I have to say, Joan, we've had like a headache for a week now. It's like, go away. Just go away. Had enough. Okay. So now I'm using Get Metalled Cobalt, but I've still got a bit of the lime in my brush too, so I'm hoping to get a bit of marbling going on. So you can see that that trace is really going to make our paints kind of have a lovely texture that's going to pop a bit. So at this point, this is all about background painting. It's not about getting detailed. So I do love the effect of these paints. Lots of nice, pleasant, yummy. So over here, I'm going to gently do some of the same to our texture paste. Now this is still a little bit damp, just because it hasn't quite got to that dry point just yet, so do be careful with it. And I'm also going to go just up to the edge here and flip maybe a little bit over, but then we're going to come back and fix that all up. A little bit there, so there we go. Okay, just going to pop a little bit just there. So you can see now where we've got that kind of stippling going on in our texture paste, we're going to get little catches of paint. Okay, so pop your lid back on. And I'm going to give my brush a wash. So we've got kind of our splodgy paint now, it's time for nice neat painting. So I do like to stab my paintbrushes into the water, just helps get everything out. But I do apologise if that's shaking the desk at all. Okay. So try and get as much of that water out my paintbrush. Stitching. So what have you done so far on your sampler? Are you doing an alphabet sampler, or are you going for different stitches? Let's go Yeah, let's go Miami. Miami. So this is like a lovely bright blue. And it just needs a bit of a mix. It has been so extraordinarily hot. So the paints will need a little TLC. So just give them a good stir. Not the easiest brush to try and stir within that pot, but here to do. So let's get first bit of colour on. And obviously where your stenciling is, you just want to try and not go over too much. So texture paste we can go over. And pop a little bit, kind of dry brush style over the top of our die cut as well. So just gonna soften up that paint a bit. Okay, and let that dry. On to the next one. So it's going to start to pick up a little bit of our paint just because it's not drying as fast as it has been doing, even though I'm still really warm. There we go. So let's put that to one side, and I'm going to get a little paintbrush. Give it another stir now that I can probably get in there. This one doesn't have fancy stitches. I used to like doing lots of cross stitch. Diamond painting has kind of replaced that for me at the moment, but oddly enough that's what got me into art college, with my cross stitch. Because when I first started studying, I was actually doing fashion and textiles. There you go. So and it's kind of picking out now round the die cut. So we're bringing in that cutting shape back in very slightly. Just going to put a bit more up here. So kind of emphasising that pattern. Same here, around there. And if you think it looks like a hot mess, don't worry, just keep going because it's just not finished yet. Okay, so let's pull this back out here. You can just about see what I'm doing. I do keep trying to check, but sometimes I go on autopilot. Almost forget that you're watching, almost. Okay, so now that our crackle's starting to go, you're going to find that it kind of soaks into your crack, so you crackle a bit. Which is fine, because then that's going to emphasise that. Okay, and let's have a look at what's happening over here. So I'm just going to pull that colour down there, a little bit on there. So this is just emphasising that pattern all the time. So if there's any bits of paint that we've missed, we can just go over the top, like so. Okay, so that'll do for Miami for now. give your brush a good wash. Okay. So remember how I said I had a plan to kind of soften the colours. I'm going to go in with some pearl instead of the wipeout. Take a little bit on my brush and let's just very carefully do a bit of more detailed painting on our heart shapes so that we start to pick out that detail. I think I'm going to need a little bit more water in my paint. So whereas the other one had gone like really runny, this one's not quite so much. So come on up there, there we go. If you're having problems with your paintbrush, especially if you're trying to do like upward strokes and it's misbehaving, and turn your work. You don't have to work up a hill. You can turn it around. It's not fixed to your desk. Okay. I'm going to also do the same inside the sections where the actual insert is missing. And you can of course use your sprays as well if you really want to be super duper quick. But sometimes it's just nice to take a step back and just try and chill. So there's a few things that have changed to today's stream to what I had planned. But it's just one of those days. I think it might be time for some new paint. That's my excuse now, sticking to it. So let's get that bit done there as well, because that kind of lost a little bit of the detail. Just try and get a bit of that paint off. There we go. So yeah, all the dies that you can see you'll be able to get tomorrow. So do join Lynette over on Create and Craft tomorrow. So we've got a nice circle die that we did our texture paste stenciling with. We've got our kind of heart-shaped die that we've just done basic background texture with. We've got our how can you put it, kiss cut, like half cut die that we've used our background elements in as well. And then we've got a couple of bits that we still need to apply, so let's just use up what's on my brush because there's no point wasting paint. So I tend to have one that's kind of like blot off, and I tend to be a bit more easygoing with that one. It's always good to work in pairs of stuff as well, so that if one doesn't work, the chances are the other one will. Okay. So now I'm going to go to my coloured die cut for starters, and I think that would look really nice overlaid over that lime colour. So let's snip into this one, and I'm just going to go random with this one, totally random. There we go, and that can go just there. Now let's give my brush a quick clean because I want to use it to apply the gel medium. So remember how I said before that the gel medium can act like a bit of a resist when it comes to being underneath elements. So you want to make sure that if you've done something like the crackle, that has cracked before you then try and put the gel medium over the top. There we go. Just going to paint that one. Okay, and I think I'm going to go that way around. So let's just move that down a little bit. There we go. And I have mucky gluey fingers. So that'll do that for temporarily, and I want to make sure that I mimic that somewhere over here. So the idea is that you've got the option then of either back-to-backing these to go into your technique journal, or you can do it so they're a bit like a double page spread if you want. So let's get a bit more up into this top corner here. And I'm going to go crossways rather than keeping it vertical, like so. So you can see just by having those bits of stenciling underneath and then pulling that die cut over the top, you kind of get lots of lovely layers, and sometimes it's little touches like that that are going to make your artwork kind of pop. So down over here where we've got our circle background, it's looking a bit plain even with using that pearl, so I think I might just pop that there. Just try and decide which way around the best, whether you want to mimic the two, or we can go exact opposite, so this piece could be vertical. You might want to go off on an angle. I think vertical actually worked really well, so let's go for that. Now, if you are using a brush to apply your gel medium, just remember that you do need to clean it out pretty well after. Yeah, I'm just going to tap that into the gel medium so it's getting a good coverage. If there's anything like that where it's just sticking up, I'm just going to get a little bit more, wipe it underneath my die cut and a little bit down onto the bottom. And there we go. So we just have one last piece, and that was the texture piece. So with this one, if you wanted to, you could use a glue gun and pop it up, but remember how we've saved all of our little pieces? I think I'm going to use those, so let's go snippy time. I'm just going to go in there. Let's go over here. And down. Let's go middle, just so we've got some bits of the circles kind of popping through. I'm going to go there And then let's think with that one, let's go up here. So even though that end bit isn't going to be supported, we can kind of hope that our texture paste is going to help. So I'm just going to flip that over and let's see if I can move that down a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So a bit gel medium, and this can be where you find that it's going to start picking stuff up, but should be alright. So that's 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, 3 diamonds, and it's always a good idea to kind of count, because then when you come to do the next layer, especially on this first piece, you're going to want to keep it equal. So let's go 1, another bit of glue, 2, and you don't even have to be precise about getting these smack on level if you don't want to, because you're not going to see it. So if they're misbehaving and just not going where you want them to, that's okay. Next bit. So 1, bit more glue, 2, bit more glue. My fingers are starting to get a little sticky now. 3. Okay, that one's well and truly slipping off, so let's just rescue that one under there. There we go. Bit more glue. 1. 2. And 1 last time. There we go. 3. So now we can apply a gel medium to all of those, and we can apply it to our project. So as we've got this kind of circle section here and circle section here, got one there, so let's go up here so we can use our little delicate bits, because we know where that there's no glue there. So I'm just going to stick that on, that one, and that one, and that one. So there we go. Hi Kim. Can't wait to see a picture as well, Louisa, if I didn't say. Okay, so with that one there, we've got this one, and I'm liking this bit up here, but I'm not sure about this bottom bit, so I'm going to pop it down there. So do the same again. There's a bit more of an area for sticking as well, but I want to kind of have it so that it's raised slightly, but not too much. Come on, there we go. A bit more glue. So this is just 2 this time rather than the 3. 1 last diamond. There we go. Now on these end bits this time, I'm just going to dab my brush so that there's some gel medium on them, so that we can kind of let those rest where they may. So let's stick that bit there, up a little bit, there we go, and press that down. So now, because we've got that gel medium on those little end sections, that one's obviously just missed a little bit, so let's just get a little bit more underneath. Just press and hold. It doesn't take very long for it to kind of grab. And then the thing that you just think, yep, you can get to that, to the background. There we go. welded. Yep, that's bonded. So I'm just going to put a little bit just on that end piece there where it's sticking up. Okay. But yes, the chat is very quiet today, and I'm not entirely convinced that I'm seeing everything. I know I don't usually see replies. So like, if somebody makes a comment and then you reply to it, that definitely doesn't come through to my software. Ever. Which is weird. Okay. So, bring my sponge back in, and actually let's use a bit of an offcut here. And rather than using paint this time, what I'm going to do is actually switch to an ink pad. So I'm going to go Distress Oxide, just because I can. Make sure that your sponge is dry before you do this though, because the last thing you want to do is go and put any paint in your ink pad. So maybe this is just a little bit too soft over a sponge, but we'll see. And let's have a look. It don't stick. You kind of got a bit of a hint just there. And just for the sake of consistency, I'm just going to go and do the same up here. So even if you think I'm not happy with that, just go and do it somewhere else, because the chances are it will blend into the background when you then go and do something. And as a rule of thumb, I kind of go and do 3 lots of something. So even when you're doing a double page spread, I'll try and do 3 across the 2 of them. So, okay, let's get a bit of a denser sponge, so that way we can get a bit more. So I'm going to line my die cut over the top, and I'm going to try and do an edge, like so. Now, because you've got lots of bits that are sticking up at this point, it may not work perfectly, but you'll get there. So a little bit more ink just on that top edge. There we go. And this should also pick up some of that texture, paste texture as well. And there we go. And let's do the same somewhere else. So the temptation is to go over that same bit over there, but I think rather than do that, I'm going to turn it round, pop it up here. There we go. Not bad. One more for good measure. So let's take this bit of trellis here. We haven't done a lot of paint on that. So I'm trying to avoid the pearl paint as well. There we go. Okay. Now what I would usually say at this point is let it dry before you try and start sticking too much to it, just so that you can flatten the piece back out a little bit. So once it's kind of skin dry, you can kind of put a bit more of a weight behind it to try and get it to lie flat. There we go. So far so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there and then we can finish those off next time that we come back for the technique, so that we can do the next layer on top. So don't forget to join Lynette tomorrow over on Create and Craft. I would say the time, but my brain has just gone blank. And you've got these lovely dies to look forward to. And also, if you watch Lynette's lives back from the past couple of days, you'll see that there's some nice little house dies, which will be making an appearance on this piece, I think. So we can kind of have those coming in there. And there's lots of different sizes as well, so it's really fun to play with. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and take care for now, and I will see you probably next week. So bye bye for now.